Thank you, Chairman, and thank you for coming in today, Mr. Patel. In the past few months, the country has experienced a string of horrific, high-profile attacks that have been motivated by racial hatred or political ideology. A shooter attacked the CDC headquarters, firing hundreds of rounds and killing a police officer. An arsonist set fire to the Pennsylvania governor, Josh Shapiro's residence, with the governor and his family actually inside. Minnesota House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband were assassinated earlier this year. Clark and Charlie Kirk was murdered last week. Bomb threats have been made against HBCUs and the DNC, and just the list goes on and on. I only have just a few minutes today, so I don't want to take a lot of time to go into all the countless and devastating violent crimes and incidents that have happened at our schools or on our streets and in our communities that have just been happening all year long. Mr. Patel, just yes or no, is this type of political violence ever acceptable in your eyes?
No.
I'm glad that we agree that these heinous acts designed to instill fear and division in our nation are never, ever acceptable, yet each of these incidents has recently taken place under your watch. The FBI's website states that protecting the United States from terrorist acts is the FBI's #1 priority, including from domestic terrorists. Is this still your #1 priority?
Domestic terrorism?
Preventing domestic terrorism.
Our #1 priorities are protecting the homeland and international terrorism and crushing violent crime, and domestic terrorism sort of interlays between both of those.
Okay, so well, then I'm glad that you're giving us the right answer, but unfortunately, your actions kind of tell a different story. Earlier this year, you granted the ranks of the FBI's Domestic Terrorism Operations Section. This is the section of the FBI that is most directly responsible for addressing political violence in our country by preventing attacks from occurring and effectively responding to them if they do. The agents in this section are the ones who stopped an individual stockpiling weapons, who planned to attack schools and churches in Florida and seized bombs made by an ISIS sympathizer in New Orleans. And instead of ensuring that this section has all the resources that it needs at a time when its mission is critical, you fired its decorated veteran FBI agents who have served their country proudly under Republican and both Democratic presidents, and you scrapped the tools that they developed to fight domestic terrorism, including the National Domestic Terrorism Incident Database.
I mean, most of that is just not true. We have 1,700 current DT managed programs. We're up 300% in the amount of cases we brought against nihilistic, violent extremists, including 764, wishing to harm our children. The FBI and the men and women are getting after that problem set more than ever because I've unleashed them to do so. And any insinuation that these tragic occurrences across the country are somehow singularly my fault or disgusting because that watershed goes
Mr.
down
Patel,
to the men
I'm
and
going to
women at the
reclaim my
FBI,
time. Mr. Patel,
and they
I'm
are
going to
not
reclaim my time.
responsible
Mr.
for it.
Chairman,
I'm
I'd
happy
like
to
to
work with you to get them what they need.
Gentlelady controls the time. Unanimous consent request. She'll state a request.
Thank you very much. Into the record, an article from Reuters titled FBI Scales Back Staffing, Tracking of Domestic Terrorism, Probes Sources Say. Thank you very much.
Without objection.
I appreciate that. So, Mr. Patel, and it isn't just the domestic terrorism operations section. Under your watch, agents are fully diverting their attention to these anti-immigrant and city takeover operations, leaving our children vulnerable to dangerous networks of online predators, both domestic and international. You pulled more than 120 FBI agents from their normal duties to operate sobriety checks and conduct traffic stops, exposing the FBI's fleet of unmarked cars and thereby making it harder for the FBI to combat violent criminal gangs, foreign intelligence services, and drug traffickers in the process.
That's simply not true. If we were not able to do two things at one time, how would we be seizing record amounts of fentanyl? 23,000 violent felons have been arrested.
Time belongs to the gentlelady.
More than twice as many as
Time
last
belongs
year.
to the gentlelady from Georgia.
Thank you very much. And this request basically is, it is an article from Reuters, which quotes law enforcement officers familiar with agents who once covered child exploitation cases, but now focus on immigration child exclusive. Thousands of agents diverted to Trump immigration track down. Mr. Patel, in the short time I have left, your tenure as director of FBI has been somewhat problematic. Americans are left definitely less safe under your watch. You have gutted the FBI's ability to keep safe from domestic terrorism. You have sent FBI agents to conduct traffic stops and round up hardworking immigrants who pose no danger to public safety. People even President Trump referred to as good, long-time workers. Your job is to protect and serve the American public.
Time to the
You have
gentlelady.
spent your time protecting heinous individuals and using the FBI to serve as a political circus. You at times have appeared unequipped,
Time
and
of
this
the
country
gentlelady has
deserves better, and I
expired.
yield.
Gentlelady yields
May I
back.
respond?
Sure can.
Simply put, what is it? Are we failing? If we're failing, how are we arresting 23,000 violent felons? Twice as many as this time last year. Are we failing? Because if we're failing, how are we seizing 1,500 kilograms of meth, 25% increase from last year? Are we failing? Because we captured 4 top 10 FBI most wanted from around the world in 7 months. That's more than the entirety of the last administration. Are we failing? Because we put 1,500 child predators in prison. Are we failing? Because we dismantled 300 human trafficking networks. Which is it? You don't like me, that's fine. But don't you dare disparage the men and women of the FBI that are producing record results in historic fashion to protect this country. They are kicking ass for America, and they're going to continue to do so.
And we appreciate your leadership. The gentlelady from Florida is recognized.
Before we get started, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you believe in truth, accountability, and the defense of American freedom. Every subscription helps keep this platform alive and independent, so we can keep bringing you honest, fact-based discussions that the mainstream media won't touch. Now, let's talk about what just happened in this hearing, because it says a lot about the state of our country, our government, and how the political class continues to weaponize agencies that were meant to serve the people. During a heated exchange in Congress, a congresswoman from Georgia delivered a scathing critique of FBI Director Kash Patel. She accused him of failing the nation, of letting domestic terrorism rise, and of mismanaging resources meant to protect Americans. She even cited several recent acts of horrific violence, from the assassination of a state official to arson attacks and shootings, and laid them at his doorstep. But here's what stood out. When Patel was finally given the chance to respond, he didn't dodge, deflect, or shift blame. He fired back with hard data, measurable results, and a passionate defense of the men and women who serve in the FBI every single day. He pointed out that under his leadership, the Bureau has arrested more than 23,000 violent felons, double what they achieved the year before. They've seized over 1,500 kilograms of methamphetamine, captured 4 of the world's top 10 most wanted criminals, and put more than 1,500 child predators behind bars. These are real, tangible accomplishments. So, let's ask the obvious question. If this is failure, what does success look like? The Congresswoman's line of questioning reflects a troubling pattern we've seen time and time again from a political left, where criticism of federal agencies is less about accountability and more about optics. When something goes wrong, Democrats are quick to blame leadership that isn't politically aligned with them. But when those same agencies are used to push partisan investigations or suppress dissent, we're told they're independent and beyond question. That contradiction is what frustrates millions of Americans. Because accountability should not depend on who holds power, it should be the foundation of it. Now, Patel's defense wasn't just about numbers. It was about principle. He said, "You don't like me, that's fine. But don't you dare disparage the men and women of the FBI who are protecting this country." And he's right. These are Americans, fathers, mothers, veterans, who put on the badge every day to fight violent criminals, drug traffickers, and child predators. Yet too often, the left treats them as political pawns or villains in their narratives about systemic corruption or oppression. The problem isn't with the rank and file. The problem is with leadership, especially when political pressure from Washington interferes with how these agencies operate. And that's where the Democratic Party bears serious responsibility. Over the past several years, under Democratic administrations and congressional oversight, federal agencies have become increasingly politicized. Priorities shift not based on national need, but on ideological convenience. Think about it. While crime rises in American cities, the focus from the top often turns toward political causes, immigration enforcement controversies, or symbolic equity initiatives. Meanwhile, communities are left less safe, and families pay the price. And it's not just the FBI. This same pattern exists across the board: the Department of Justice, Homeland Security, even the IRS. Too many of these institutions have become tools of political management instead of instruments of justice. That's why Patel's statement resonated. He reminded Congress and the American people that patriotism isn't about politics, it's about service. When he said the FBI is kicking ass for America, it wasn't bravado, it was a challenge to a political class that's forgotten what results actually look like. Let's be clear, every American wants transparency, justice, and safety. That shouldn't be a partisan issue. But when one party's policies or narratives undermine the very agencies meant to protect us, it becomes a national concern. The left often claims to stand for fairness and equality, but when their rhetoric paints law enforcement as the enemy, when they push defunding movements, and when they politicize investigations for media points, they weaken the institutions they say they want to reform. That's not progress, it's hypocrisy. We need reform, yes, but reform rooted in honesty, not ideology. That means cutting out political influence from a justice system, restoring respect for those who protect our communities, and ensuring that every investigation, whether it targets a Republican or a Democrat, is based on evidence, not agenda. So, what should we take away from this hearing? First, that our institutions are being stretched thin by political gamesmanship. Second, that leadership requires more than moral posturing. It requires results. And third, that the American people are watching. We're tired of the double standards. We're tired of the excuses. What we want is accountability, transparency, and leadership that puts America first, not political loyalty. If you agree that the FBI, DOJ, and every federal agency should serve the people, not the party in power, then stay tuned. We'll keep breaking down these hearings, exposing contradictions, and calling for a government that defends freedom instead of controlling it. Make sure you're subscribed, turn on notifications, and share this video so more Americans can see the truth for themselves. Because sunlight, real transparency, is the only way we take this country back to its founding principles.